Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here. And in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the Week 15 Monday Night Football two-game slate on Draftkings. We do have a showdown slate for Monday night tonight, but we also have a two-game slate because there are two games. If you were paying attention, the Raiders and Browns game that was scheduled for Saturday got postponed to Monday, and it's actually going to be played at 5 o'clock before Monday Night Football starts. So we do have a two-game slate, and the biggest contests I would say are on the two-game slate. So that's what I'm going to cover in today's video. I'm not going to make a video for the showdown slate, but for the two-gamer, we're going to go position by position, kind of like we do. We used to do in the main slate videos, go through quarterback, through tight end, kind of talk about my favorite plays at each position on this two-game slate. We'll break it all down. Just before we do get started, guys, please do hit the like button down below. As always, I do appreciate the likes. If you're new to the channel here, hit that subscribe button as well. And if you have not yet, go check out the sponsor of the video, PrizePicks. Go sign up for PrizePicks. Use code Noah when you do sign up, and they will match your first deposit. PrizePicks will give you a free bet up to $100 when you do sign up with my code. And you can take a look at what PrizePicks has to offer. They are more of a player prop based DFS site. So you're basically you're just picking the over or the under on players' projections. I'm recording this video before Sunday Night Football starts. As you can see, they have stuff available for Sunday Night Football. They also have stuff posted for these Monday night games. For both games, you can take a look at their board. They have fantasy point projections posted, and they also have player props. So, passing yards, rushing yards, receiving yards, receptions. You can even, bet on touchdowns, whether you think a guy scores a touchdown or not. You would take the over or the under there. So, yeah, take a look at what PrizePicks has to offer. You have to make at least 2 picks, but you can make up to 5 picks, and you can win up to 10 extra money on PrizePicks. So go sign up and use code Noah when you do, and they will match your first deposit up to $100. And as always, if you want some of my favorite picks each day on PrizePicks, I do provide those over on Patreon. I'm also giving out the entries that I play myself. I post those on Patreon as well. So that's something that I used to not do before, but I will be doing moving forward. So basically any entries that I place on PrizePicks, I will be sharing those on Patreon. So yeah, if you want to become a Patreon member, get access to all of my PrizePicks plays, along with all of my other DFS content, updated content that's available. Patreon, link down below in the description. Check that out if you are interested. But let's go ahead and start off at the quarterback position. We're going to talk about the 4 quarterbacks on this slate. So we got Kirk Cousins, Derek Carr, Justin Fields, and most likely Nick Mullins will be quarterbacking for the Browns. So Baker Mayfield got placed on the COVID list. So did Case Keenum. With this game getting postponed 2 days later, is there a chance that these guys play today or Tuesday or Monday, excuse me? There's a chance they could play Monday, but it seems pretty unlikely. So, Nick Mullins will be the quarterback for the Browns. But looking at the top of the quarterback pool, Kirk Cousins, our most expensive QB on this slate, $6,800. I think Kirk Cousins is in play. Obviously, it's a 2-game slate. We don't really have a lot of options. I would not say, though, that he's my favorite quarterback. I think if I'm going, looking at the quarterback position, if I'm just playing one lineup on this slate, my favorite quarterback is definitely Justin Fields, 5,300. Really like this matchup for him at home against the Vikings. I don't think this Vikings defense is one that we should be worried about at all. Justin Fields lately has actually looked pretty good, especially for fantasy. We know he provides somewhat of a high ceiling. Now, he's been pretty bad this year, especially at the beginning of the year, weeks 3 through 5, 3 through 6. He was just so bad. He was putting up just god-awful games. He's been better lately, though. In a tough spot on the road against Green Bay in that Sunday night game last week or 2 weeks ago, I can't remember what it was. He had a really good game, 21 DK points on the road against Pittsburgh. 19 DK points. We know he offers that rushing upside. He can throw for 200, 250 yards. I think Justin Fields at 5,300 is probably the best quarterback play on this slate, especially since on this slate specifically, we want to really try and pay up for some of these studs at other positions. So at running back, you got Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb. At wide receiver, you can pay up for Justin Jefferson, potentially Adam Thielen if he plays. I'm going to prioritize getting up to those guys versus paying up for Kirk Cousins. I think Justin Fields could easily outscore Kirk Cousins, could easily outscore Derek Carr. Not saying that Cousins or Carr, they're out of play. I would just say that given the savings, Justin Fields at 5,300 is definitely my favorite QB on this slate. Nick Mullins at 4,900 I think is playable, assuming that he's going to be starting. It's tough to really know what we're going to get from Nick Mullins. He's not started a game this year. He's their 3rd-string quarterback. He was elevated from the practice squad to be available for this game, and obviously now he's going to be the starter. I don't feel great about Nick Mullins, but I think he's playable just because it's a 2-game slate. But if I can find $400, I would much rather get up to Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields by far my favorite QB. Probably would say Cousins second, Carr third, and then Mullins fourth. That's how I'd rank the 4 quarterbacks. Now, by some chance, if things change Monday and Baker Mayfield winds up starting, then yeah, Baker Mayfield at 5,400 would definitely be viable. Case Keenum, I would definitely like a little bit more than Nick Mullins, just because we've kind of seen Case Keenum at least as a starter this year, whereas Nick Mullins, we just have no idea what we're getting from him. But that's kind of it for the quarterback position. It's kind of the same on Yahoo. The pricing is very similar on Yahoo. I will say that Justin Fields is a little bit more priced up there, a little bit more expensive, $27. He's somewhat closely priced to Kirk Cousins, but I still think I'd be playing Justin Fields at quarterback on Yahoo too. But moving on to the running back position. So our running backs that we're really going to be focused on here are Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb, Josh Jacobs, and David Montgomery. You could obviously take a shot on some of these backups and just hope things go your way and maybe they get a touchdown or something. But for the most part, you're just going to be focused on the top 4 guys. And Dalvin Cook at 8,500, he's the best running back play on the slate in my opinion. I think he's one of the best plays overall. I do prefer him over Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson and Dalvin Cook are the same price point. I think I would be prioritizing Cook over Jefferson if I had to choose between the two. We saw last week against Pittsburgh, Dalvin Cook in that game, they said, he was going to be good to go, was going to be full go, and surely enough, 28 touches. There was no limitations on him. He had a massive game, 205 yards, 2 touchdowns, 38 Draftkings points. I mean, we know Dalvin Cook's role is very secure. We know he's going to get a ton of volume, a ton of opportunity. A matchup on the road against the Bears may not, you may not think that's a great matchup, but actually this season the Bears, they're top 10 in terms of rushing yards allowed to opposing running backs. Matchup, for a guy like Dalvin Cook, I don't really care about anyway. He's just going to get so much opportunity, so much volume. His workload is so good that even if he's in a tough matchup, he can still put up a big game. I think on this 2-game slate, Dalvin Cook is for sure a guy I want to be prioritizing, want to be trying to get into my lineups. And I think Nick Chubb's a really good play too. We know that Kareem Hunt's also on the COVID list, so there's a pretty good possibility that Kareem Hunt will not be eligible to play for Monday night's game. If Kareem Hunt's out, I don't know if that really changes Nick Chubb's role in terms of, his pass game usage. He's never been a guy that they use a ton in the passing game. Obviously, Kareem Hunt's kind of their pass catching back. But I do think, more touches, more snaps will most likely be there for Nick Chubb. He'll probably be on the field more. Maybe, on third downs, he won't come off the field. Maybe some third downs he'll be out there. I think Nick Chubb's pretty likely to get at least like 16, close to 20 touches. Probably gets, 15 to 18 carries. Probably gets a few targets as well. The matchup against the Raiders, I think, is pretty favorable. I think this is definitely a spot where Nick Chubb can have a lot of success. We know this Browns team is a very run-heavy team. They like to run the ball as much as possible. With potentially their third-string quarterback in there, I doubt they're going to come out here and just throw the ball around. I'm sure they're going to be running it a ton. So Nick Chubb, again, banking on the workload he's going to get, I think is a really good play too at 7,900. If I can find a way to play Cook and Chubb, if I was playing one lineup on this slate, I would probably want to be playing Cook and Chubb at running back if I could. But Josh Jacobs is definitely in play. His pass game usage as of late has been incredible. 9 targets against Washington back in Week 13. Last week against KC, even where they got the crap beat out of him. I mean, you saw Josh Jacobs get 6 targets in that game. This matchup against Cleveland, Cleveland's been a good defense this year. They're one of the better defensive teams. They've been pretty good stopping the run. In terms of rushing yards allowed to running backs, they're bottom 10. They've been a good run defense. I don't think this is a spot where Josh Jacobs is going to be really efficient. But I think you're kind of banking on the pass game usage increasing. If he's going to catch 5 or 6 balls, on DraftKings alone, that's 6 points minimum, not including any yards he gets, not including if he scores any touchdowns. I think Jacobs is more of a just a play to get different. I think he will be the lowest owned running back between these 4 guys, between Cook, Chubb, Jacobs, and Montgomery. I think Jacobs will be the lowest owned. So if you want to play Jacobs in tournaments, I think it's fine. But I don't love him. I don't love the spot against Cleveland. The usage at least is there to where he is playable. And then David Montgomery at 5,900. I do like this spot for him at home against the Vikings. David Montgomery's also been getting really good usage lately. He's been getting really good pass game usage. Last week, 7 targets against Green Bay. The week before that, 9 targets. He's been like an every down running back, I want to say, as well. I don't think he's barely been leaving the field. I know last week his snaps were pretty high. 84% of the snaps for David Montgomery. Back in week 11, he played 95% of the snaps. In week 12, 84% of the snaps. He's been a workhorse running back this year. He's going to probably get all the goal line work, even if they trail in this game, even if game script gets sideways and they're throwing a lot. I think Dave Montgomery will still be out there catching passes. And at 5,900, he's pretty cheap. If you wanted to play him as your flex play, if you wanted to play 3 running backs on this slate, Cook, Chubb, Montgomery, that's a really good strategy. I think that's probably going to be a popular strategy. I think Dave Montgomery is going to project pretty well at his salary. But he's definitely a good play in a pretty good spot against the Vikings, especially with the volume he's getting and the price point. Ranking the running backs, I would say I'd go Cook, Chubb, Montgomery, and Jacobs. But all four of those guys, on a 2-game slate, they're all obviously in play. It's really tough to get too excited, though, about anyone else. At this point, you're just kind of throwing darts with the rest of these backups. Could Dearness Johnson get some opportunity as the backup behind Chubb, with Kareem Hunt out? I guess it's possible. But again, you're just going to have to get lucky there. Hope he scores a touchdown. I don't think he gets enough touches to really be a great play at 5,400. He's just, a total dart throw, in my opinion. But I think that's it for running back. We can go ahead and move on to the wide receiver position. So wide receiver, we mentioned it earlier. If I'm paying up for someone on this slate, I would prefer Dalvin Cook over Justin Jefferson, given they're the same price point. I think Cook's just a better play. But that doesn't mean Justin Jefferson can't outscore Dalvin Cook. I mean, we've seen Jefferson have massive games this year. Now, there is a possibility that Adam Thielen does return for this game. Obviously, Justin Jefferson's volume these last few weeks has just been absurd. 14 targets against Detroit. That was the game that Thielen got injured in. And then last week against Pittsburgh, when Thielen didn't play, we saw Justin Jefferson get 15 targets in that game. Now, can we project him for that many targets? Probably not. But I still think he does get 9, 10, maybe 11 targets. At 8,500, I mean, he's obviously a good play. I just think, you can't pay up for everyone. You're going to have to take some stands. I think if I was playing one lineup, I would be prioritizing the expensive running backs over paying up for Justin Jefferson. But I think in tournaments, Justin Jefferson does make a lot of sense. He obviously has a big ceiling. The price tag's really high, though, and Adam Thielen could be returning. Now, Adam Thielen himself at 6,700, God, he's probably just more of a contrarian option. He's listed as questionable with an ankle injury. I'd assume if Thielen plays, I mean, I don't know. It's a scenario where, the Vikings, they're trying to win games. They're trying to get a playoff spot. They could put Thielen out there just because they really need to win games right now. There's a chance that if Thielen plays, that maybe he's not 100%. Maybe he's, out there as a decoy. Obviously, the Vikings, like I said, they're trying to win games right now, so I think they're good. Thielen's probably going to do whatever it takes to be out there. We don't know his health, though. I don't think he practiced at all this week. So there's a good possibility that if he does play tonight or Monday night, that he will not be, not have a full workload. Maybe he plays limited snaps. Maybe he's out there as a decoy. He's a super risky option. It's a 2-game slate, so Adam Thielen, if he plays, he's not out of play, but I would not consider him, a standout option. Hunter Renfrow, 6,500. He's a guy that I really have not been prioritizing at all, paying up for this year. I really haven't played him at all this season, but man, he's been good lately, and especially last week, he had just an unreal game. 13 catches on 14 targets, 117 yards and a touchdown. Even in a game where the freaking Raiders scored 9 points and they lost by 39. I mean, Renfrow still went out there and crushed. His opportunity lately, his usage has just been exceptional. Really ever since Darren Waller's been out, and Darren Waller is going to be out once again for this Monday night game. At 6,500, I mean, I think Hunter Renfrow is a pretty good play here. He's going to get a lot of targets. When Derek Carr drops back to throw, he's going to be looking for Hunter Renfrow. At 6,500, I definitely like Hunter Renfrow in that mid-range. I think he'd be one of my favorite wide receivers for sure if I could, find a way to fit him in. We do have some value that we will talk about the wide receiver position. I think this might be a position where you look to save some salary, but I think Renfrow at 6,500 is a really good play. Then some of these other guys like Darnell Mooney, 5,500, like the matchup against the Vikings, should be looking at pretty good volume here. No Allen Robinson. And I think Marquise Goodwin is doubtful as well. So Mooney's going to be the wide receiver one. I mean, he's basically been the wide receiver one as of late. His targets, last week only saw 5 targets. The week before that only saw 7 targets. We know Darnell Mooney has a pretty big ceiling. We've seen him put up big games. We've seen him go for over 100 yards, in 2 out of his last 4. He always offers big play upside. I think he's viable. I think he's more of a tournament option, but I think Darnell Mooney's definitely in play. KJ Osborne, if Adam Thielen's out again, I think KJ Osborne will project out as a pretty good value play at 4,500. He had a really good usage last week, 9 targets, 3 catches for 83 yards and a touchdown. I do want to say that he was basically he was almost an every down receiver last week. Yeah, he played on 86% of the snaps last week with Thielen out. I think if Thielen's out again, KJ Osborne's a really good value. I think if Thielen plays, then KJ Osborne, at that point, I'm not really that interested. Donovan Peoples-Jones, he's probably going to be the wide receiver 1 for Cleveland Monday night. Assuming Jarvis Landry's not activated from the COVID list, which it doesn't seem like he's going to be. We're going to see DPJ be the wide receiver 1. He's 4,200. With Nick Mullins at quarterback, what can we really expect from these Browns pass catchers? I have no idea. There's a possibility that Nick Mullins only throws the ball 15 times. I think if the Browns have a lead in this game, they're just going to run the ball as much as possible, just try and kill the clock, get out of here with a win. But by some chance, if they get behind and they're forced to throw, I mean, we could see, DPJ get 6, 7, 8 targets because he's going to be on the field a ton. He's going to be their wide receiver 1 at 4,200. he's for sure in play as a value option. We could also look to these other Cleveland receivers for value. Rashad Higgins is probably going to be the wide receiver 2, and he's minimum salary $3K. I think he's going to be a really chalky value play, but it's hard not to like him at $3K, especially on a slate where we do have some decent pay-up options: Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb, Justin Jefferson. We want to try and fit these guys into our lineups. In order to make that work, a guy like Rashad Higgins at $3K, who should be on the field a decent amount with Jarvis Landry out, I think he's someone we can look to as a value option. I think we could maybe see like Anthony Schwartz get some playing time. He was questionable, or he's questionable for this game. He did clear the concussion protocol, so he most likely will play Monday night. We'll have to keep an eye on the injury report, have to keep an eye on inactives before, an hour and a half before lock or before this game starts. But if Schwartz is active, he's another guy that we could kind of consider as a valuable, or a viable cheap play. I straight up would prefer Higgins over him. I think Higgins' role is more secure. But Anthony Schwartz is viable. I know Jamarcus Bradley got called up. I think he's going to be on the active roster. He might get some opportunity. He's probably more of like a dart throw, but I think he could be playable too. Rashad Higgins, though, at $3K, I do like as a value from this Cleveland receiving core. I think DPJ at 4,200 is a pretty decent value as well. And then these Bears receivers, so Allen Robinson's on the COVID list. Marquise Goodwin is doubtful. I don't know who's going to kind of step in and fill the wide receiver 2 role. It could be Jakeem Grant. It could be Damiere Byrd. Jakeem Grant, we did see him have a big game last week against Green Bay. Only had he had one catch. He had basically 2 touches. He had one catch. It was a 46-yard touchdown, and then he had a punt return touchdown or a kick return touchdown. I can't remember which one it was. He had 18 Draftkings points. It was pretty much like the most fluky performance you're ever going to see. I mean, the guy literally had one catch and he scored 18 Draftkings points. I mean, you'll never see that happen again. But I think with Marquise Goodwin doubtful, with Allen Robinson out, we probably will see more playing time for Jakeem Grant. I would think he probably fills in a decent amount maybe in the slot. So at 3,800, he could be viable. I think Damiere Byrd at 3,400 is also someone we could consider for value. I want to take a look at the Bears the receiving snaps for the Bears last week, so we can kind of get a gauge on how they use their receivers. So last week you had Darnell Mooney, basically was an every down receiver, played 92% of the snaps. Allen Robinson played 77%. So Damiere Byrd played the third most amount of snaps. You would have to think with Allen Robinson now out, Damiere Byrd probably fills in for Robinson, and then Jakeem Grant was fourth in snaps. He played 47%. So it's probably going to be Mooney and Byrd on the outside, and then Jakeem Grant in the slot, if I had to guess. So I think Jakeem Grant and Damiere Byrd, I don't feel great about either one, but I think they are playable just because they're going to be on the field a decent amount. They're cheap too, 3,800, 3,400. We kind of need value, so I think those are guys we could look to as viable cheap plays. It's probably it, though. The rest of these guys, like, the Raiders receivers, like Deshaun Jackson, Bryan Edwards, I mean, these guys are just dart throws. Like, we haven't seen much upside or, any sort of a safe floor from any of these guys. Could they catch a touchdown? It's possible, but I really wouldn't be banking on it. I think that's it for the wide receiver position. Now, moving on to tight end. Tight end, another position where we kind of can look to save salary. I mean, our most expensive tight end on the slate is Tyler Conklin, and he's 4,200. So you're going to be saving some salary here at tight end. Conklin at 4,200 is playable. Now, he's probably not my favorite tight end. His role is not great. He's not going to get a ton of volume. He's kind of a touchdown or bust tight end, but I mean, we could basically say that about every tight end on this slate is touchdown or bust. I mean, it's pretty likely. I would say it's almost likely that like none of these tight ends put up a game that you like have to have. Like, I doubt there's going to be a tight end that puts up a good enough score that like if you don't have them, you're basically toast. Like, I think all the tight ends on this slate could score around the same amount. So like, really, it's just kind of pick your favorite. I think Foster Moreau at 3,800 as kind of filling in for Darren Waller right now. He's been like an every down tight end. I want to say that in the games he's played like without Waller, I mean, they've used him on like every single snap. I'll take a look at his snaps from last week. I want to see. I know back in I can't remember which game it was early this year, but there was a game early this year when Foster Moreau started in place of Waller, and he played every single snap. The last few weeks, though, I mean, last week, 98% of the snaps for Foster Moreau, 85%. Like, he's basically played 80 to 90% of the snaps in all the games that Waller's missed. So he's going to be on the field a ton. He should get targeted a decent amount at 3,800. I like Foster Moreau, I think the most at tight end. I think David Njoku is a pretty good play, too. Austin Hooper is also on the COVID list, so he should be out for this game. I think David Njoku will kind of fill in as a tight end 1. We will see them add in, I forgot his name. Harrison Bryant. We'll see them add Harrison Bryant in. We'll see them probably, utilize both those guys. We know the Browns are a team that kind of, utilizes multiple tight ends. So I think, you'll see David Njoku on the field amount. You'll see Harrison Bryant on the field amount. You'll see some, these guys play on the field at the same time. They do run a lot of 2 tight end sets. So I think the Browns tight ends, both Njoku and Bryant, are pretty decent value plays. I think, if you really want to save salary, I mean, I don't really know what Harrison Bryant's ceiling is, but again, this position, the tight end position in general on this slate is so bad that if you get 7 points from Harrison Bryant, like, he could be a really good play because he's 2,500 and he's going to allow you to pay up for some of these studs. I think going cheap with Harrison Bryant, he's questionable, assuming he plays, is definitely a guy you could go to. I think David Njoku, Foster Moreau are both really good plays too. I think those are my favorite tight ends. If you want to go to Cole Kmet or Jimmy Graham, I think that's fine too. I don't have a strong stance when it comes to the tight ends. I think most of these guys are pretty much like touchdown or bust. I mean, none of these guys have really great ceilings. But I would say Foster Moreau, David Njoku, and Harrison Bryant are my 3 favorite tight ends just in general at this position. But that's it, guys. I think that's it for the position-by-position breakdown for this 2-game slate. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. We will have another 2-game slate on Tuesday. So we do have 2 games on Tuesday. Both of them start, I think, at the same time. And I'm pretty sure we have big contests on Draftkings and on Yahoo for the 2-game slate. So I most likely will have a video up on Tuesday. Probably I'll post it like late Monday night. I'll have a video up for the 2-game slate on Tuesday. But I hope you guys did enjoy this one. Appreciate you watching. If you did, please do hit the like button. As always, I appreciate the likes. Hit the subscribe button as well if you have not yet. And again, go check out the sponsor of the video, PrizePicks. Go sign up for PrizePicks. Use code NOAH when you do sign up. And PrizePicks, they will match your first deposit up to $100 when you do sign up with my code. You can take a look at what PrizePicks has to offer. You can take a look at their board for Monday night's games. I'm sure probably sometime Monday or early Tuesday, they'll add stuff for the Tuesday night games as well, and you can make some picks for those games too. But yeah, if you want to sign up for PrizePicks, use code NOAH, and they will match your first deposit up to $100. But best of luck on this 2-game slate, guys. I appreciate you watching the video. I hope you did enjoy, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.